Well, hello, folks, and welcome to this episode of the Texas Titans podcast. I am so glad you are here. I have a very special Titan today. Her name is Abby Wright. That's right. My youngest daughter is the Titan for today. I could not be more proud of Abby, and I want to introduce you, my audience, to her because if ever there is a young lady who exercises strength, courage, and discipline, it is my youngest daughter. And I would say that about her if she didn't bear my last name. I promise you. And also, this is kind of a special episode because we have coming up this Saturday in Plano the JDRF, which is this is to support type 1 diabetes research and searches for a cure and helping make the lives better of those who actually have to live with this chronic disease a little better and a little easier. Abby is and not only is she a type 1 diabetic, but she is someone who is determined to eradicate this disease and do everything in her power to take her disease that she has and use it as a springboard to do something powerful and good. And so the first thing I want to tell you is that you can go to www.2.jdrf.org and you can donate to One Walk. Do me a favor. When you go down and hit the donate button, it says donate to a team. Please donate to Team East Texas. That is Abby's team. So please consider that. It's www.2.jdrf.org. Please consider helping. I don't care if it's $5, $10. It would mean the world to Abby if you would just support it. It would mean the world to me as well. Now, I want to tell you a little bit about Abby's story. So when she was 17 years old, no, I guess she was 16. This was a couple years ago. February 7th was the day. I get a call from her mother that she is ill and she's taking her to the doctor to get her blood work done. While she was there, the doctor said that she needed to get to the emergency room immediately. Her blood sugar had spiked to over 400. Now, for you and I, a normal pancreas produces blood sugar levels of somewhere enough insulin to keep our blood sugar levels at around 75 to 90. So 400 is extremely high. And with that high blood sugar reading, we, for the very first time, heard in our world with any conscious, awareness of type 1 diabetes. And we realized that very well may be what Abby was about to be diagnosed with. So she ends up going by care flight to Dallas Children's, where she spent 48 hours with around the clock blood tests, fasting, so no food, sleep deprived, constant shots and pricks into her finger to figure out, is this what has happened? And it was over the course of those 48 hours that she, in fact, realized that she was most likely a type 1 diabetic, which means that her life had forever changed. Never again would she be able to just leave the house without the right amount of insulin, without the right amount of snacks and foods in case she were to find herself having a low. She would never be able to eat a meal again without giving herself a shot or having a pump to put insulin in her body to adjust it. I mean, literally her life, and ours for that matter, had changed forever. And Abby said something to me during that time in the hospital that I will never forget, and it has so much to do with why I want you to hear from her. This isn't just about raising awareness for JDRF and diabetes. I want you to meet my daughter. It was in the hospital that she called me over to her hospital bed. She said, Dad, she said, I thought about it and I could be really angry about this, but that would not do any good. I need to learn how to live with this and make something positive out of it. And that's exactly what she has done from day one. She doesn't complain. And frankly, she makes my life as a parent so much easier because of her discipline, because of her eating habits, because of the way she takes care of herself. And what that has done, though, has kind of shielded me from a lot of what Abby internalizes and what a lot of type 1 diabetics deal with on a daily basis. And so what you're going to hear during this podcast, and I hope you will listen all the way through to get to this segment in particular. She was on a message board where she and some diabetics, they communicate, and there was someone that had written on there. They asked if anyone had ever seen a poem about type 1 diabetes, to which Abby thought for a moment that she had never seen that. So she would just take it upon herself to write a poem herself. And she did. And after that, she read it to me. And like I said, Abby makes having type 1 diabetes look easy because of her discipline. She she shields her old man from worry. She worries as much about me worrying about her as I worry about her. And but this poem really, in a very vivid way, illustrated to me what she internalizes and what she deals with on a daily basis. And so I would ask you, the listener, to give this time to listen so that if you have a family member that has type 1 diabetes, has a child with type 1 diabetes, or in the future, if you, like us, and God willing, you will never face this, but if you ever hear of a family member or have a child that's diagnosed, Abby's poem so succinctly lets you know what these folks deal with on a daily basis, living with diabetes. So please take the time to listen to that. Now the audio gets a little bit funky because she's up in Boulder, Colorado at school, and we did this through Skype, and it got the connection got a little scratchy for a while, so we stopped it and we picked up again. And so forgive me for that. It does get a lot better. It starts out good. The middle gets kind of funky. Then at the end, the audio is a lot better. So anyway, please take the time to listen to this. Granted, I am a proud dad, but Abby is a special girl, and it's not just with how she deals with her diabetes. She understands the value of setting out a plan and executing. She's far more talented and will be far more successful than her father ever thought about being. I know that. I want that for her, and I know that, and I believe that in her. And I think whenever you listen to this podcast, you'll get the same understanding as I have, that she is truly a special girl, regardless of the fact that she bears my last name. I would say that. So anyway, again, www, the number 2, JDRF.org. Look for Teen East Texas. Please support the JDRF One Walk. Please support Abby, and please help us collectively. Let's get together as the Texas Titan audience and help eradicate type 1 diabetes forever. Folks, thank you for sending the Texas Titan podcast downloads into the thousands now. The feedback that I have received is just overwhelming. I cannot tell you how much I appreciate you listening. Please enjoy this episode with my own personal Texas Titan, Abby Wright. Thanks, folks.
All right. Well, this is a very special episode of the Texas Titans podcast. I'm here with Abby Wright. What's up, Goose?
Hi, how are you?
Well, Abby, for most of our listeners, Abby, most of them know you. They know that you're my daughter, and thank you for joining us from Boulder, Colorado, where here in Tyler. Oh, by the way, so it started out this morning at like 63 degrees, and I think we're down we're at 43 degrees now. So
nice. Well, it's about 27 here. Yesterday it was around 70 degrees, but went to bed, woke up this morning, everything's covered in snow. Everything's white.
Wow.
So it's been pretty interesting.
Wow, that's so awesome. Well, okay, so there's several reasons why I wanted to bring you on. One is because I'm the typical quintessential very proud dad, and that I am very proud of you. And I want to talk about some of your early entrepreneurial ventures, because on the podcast, as you know, I talk to a lot of people that are small business owners, that are entrepreneurs, and ever since you were like 4 years old, I think, is when you started your first business, you've always had that entrepreneurial spirit. But also, this is a special episode to bring awareness to diabetes. You know, my last episode, I did a little promo with Tanya Konovalov from JDRF to let the listeners know about kind of what it was in the One Walk that's coming up. And one of the things to the listener that I want them to know is that I'm not just having Abby on because she's my daughter and she has type 1 diabetes. Abby has, and this is, taking my dad hat off, just having an up close eyewitness account of how she has handled her diagnosis and living with diabetes and the life-changing event that this is. I think by all accounts earns her the title in my book of Texas Titan, because she has truly dealt with this with grace and strength and courage, and she has made it so much easier on our whole family than it could have been just by the way she's handled that. So for that, thank you, baby.
Well, thank you so much. You have no idea how much that means to me to hear you say that. And I'm really excited to tell everyone my story. So,
okay. Well, first of all, let's start on a light note.
one.
Let's start on a light note. So, how old were you whenever you opened your first store, your first entrepreneurial venture in our living room?
So I was about 4 years old, and I was telling him right before this, it's so funny because I was thinking about this situation this morning. I was thinking about how I have always had an entrepreneur type spirit. Like I love the idea of maybe owning my own business one day. And I've always been that way. So when I was 4 years old, I decided one day I wanted a store. I was like, I'm going to own my own store, and it's going to work and it's going to be great. And so what I did was I just went into my closet and got all the stuff that I didn't wear anymore. And I picked up a few things from around my room that I felt like I didn't really need anymore. And I went into the living room and I set up my store, and I put price tags on everything. And I advertised to my family that this is the grand opening of Abby's store. Like, come by and buy whatever. And then I guess they came to my little store and looked through my stuff. And then after about, I'd say an hour or so, they're like, all right, Abby. And this is like in the evening. They're like, all right, well, it's time to go to bed. Why don't we clean up the store? And I look at them and I go, well, what are you talking about? What do you mean clean up the store? And they're like, well, it's time to go to bed. Like, you need to clean up. And I go, well, Walmart doesn't just clean up their store at night, do they?
You were
and
adamant.
They got a real big kick out of that. And
you could not understand why we were making you shut your store down.
No, I mean, it was my store, and y'all were making me shut it down. But hey, I mean,
well, and by the way, I guess with having a father that was in real estate, you learned your first real lesson in real estate being all about location. I don't know how much foot traffic you were really going to get in the middle of our living room.
Right.
So,
yes, but you're right. You're probably right. It was probably for the best that I cleaned it up, but.
But then, to your credit, so your next successful business venture was the Abby's Snack Sale, which was pretty solid, right? Because that's where I taught you.
I'd say so.
Go ahead, tell the listeners about that venture, because that actually made some cash.
Yeah. I actually did pretty well with this little business of mine. So, as like you guys probably already know, my dad used to own a real estate company, and I used to hang out there all the time after school and on weekends. Like when I was really little, I'd say, how old do you think I was? Probably 7.
Yeah, probably 7, 8 years old. Yeah.
7, 8 is around when it started. Like I said, I've always wanted to have my own business. So I decided, why don't I try a snack sale? And so what I did was I had him take me to the grocery store, and we bought like a bunch of different snacks like Hershey bars, Reese's, Cheez-Its, Goldfish, that kind of thing. And I set up on a little platter, like a little with all the snacks on it in the, what was it? What was that little room?
Just a little kitchen area right there, the little break room.
Yeah, it was like a little kitchen area type break. Yeah, like a little coffee bar. And so I set up all my snacks there with a little jar saying snacks $1 each. And I like everyone was so nice enough to actually pay when they bought a snack, and I actually made around like $100 just by doing that over, I'd say maybe like a year or so. And so pretty good for an 8-year-old or 7-year-old, I'd say. But I've always been a really big saver, so I'm pretty sure I still have some like $1 bills from that little snack sale sitting in my wallet. So
that's exactly right.
Pretty cool.
And if you'll remember, I told you, I said, okay, I'm going to be your backer. You're going to pay me back. And so that's what I taught you, how how profit margin worked, and how I would pay for your first bit of inventory, but you would have to pay me back over time with your profits, and you did that. And so that was your first lesson. So. And then, by the way, to the listener, I tried to keep her home. I said, instead of spending all this money sending her off to the University of Colorado in Boulder, I tried to get her to stay here in Tyler and go to school and give her some seed money for a business to get this entrepreneurial thing going at a real level. But I couldn't keep you here. Once you went to Boulder and saw that, which, I can't say I blame you, because it's pretty cool. So, I've said several times to several people that ask me how you're doing. I'm like, well, I wouldn't mind dying and coming back as one of my children, because you guys live pretty well.
Yeah, no, you have no idea how much I love it here. I mean, once I saw Boulder, I was like, yeah, I got to stay here for a little bit.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Well, all right. So let's get into the meat of this. And all right. So, listener, I'm gonna try to keep it together during this interview. But it's as Abby can attest to, I get pretty emotional when it comes to her and her sister, and in particular with this
He
whole
does.
this whole type 1 diabetes thing that changed all of our lives. But Abby, here's what I want to do. I want to use this as a
Mhm.
time to, one, just for the listeners to understand kind of what diabetes is and what your life has been like, how you started to all of a sudden, one, realize that there was something wrong with you, that you were not
Mhm.
feeling right. Then that day that you were really sick, you were upstairs, and I wrote about it in a blog post not too long ago, and I'll have that in the show notes as well. Kind of leading up to, and then you get the diagnosis, and then kind of what ran through your mind during that time. So let's just start there with, and by the way, to the listener, Abby, up until this point, perfectly healthy girl, you don't contract diabetes, type 1 diabetes.
Mhm.
You don't inherit it genetically. It is just one of those things that your autoimmune system gets attacked and your pancreas stops producing insulin, which is vital for survival. And so all of a sudden, and by doing that, it has an impact on your body that Abby started to feel. And start us there, Abby, with when you started getting the some of the symptoms that you had no idea what was happening, but what you were feeling whenever you
Mhm.
realized that you were not well.
Yeah. Okay, so I really like that you pointed out that diabetes is not something that's inherited or something that is caused by like a specific thing. Because yeah, like you said, I was completely healthy, normal. I was a sophomore in high school, like when everything started happening. But yeah, just before that, I had been great, healthy. I've always been really active. Like I was actually in track season when I was diagnosed. So I ran hurdles and I was always exercising after school, eating enough, eating my vegetables, all that, blah, blah, blah. So I was perfectly healthy until I'd say about mid-December of my sophomore year. I'm trying to think what first happened. I'd say I know when it first started getting weird was on Christmas break. I lost 8 pounds. I vividly remember 8 pounds. And I was like, that's weird. Why am I losing weight? I'm not really changing anything I'm eating. I'm not working out more. It was just really random. And I figured, well, I have kind of been sleeping through breakfast, sometimes sleeping through lunch because it was Christmas break. So I'm maybe subconsciously eating less. And that was the very first thing that I noticed. And then, I'd say as time went on, I started feeling had less and less energy, creeping up to like January, I'd say. I started feeling really, really lethargic. Like once I got back to school from Christmas break, I realized, wow, walking from my math class to my English class makes me out of breath. Like I'm so tired. I just and it was not a long walk at all. No stairs, no nothing, just one hallway to the end. And I was like panting as soon as I got in my desk. And I thought that was a little bit weird, but I was like, you know what? It's track season. I'm actually just really tired. I'm sure that's all that's going on. Well, then I started losing even more and more weight. I noticed that I dropped about 15 pounds pretty rapidly. When I lost that 8 pounds, I'd stayed the same for, I'd say, about a month. And then all of a sudden, just more and more pounds started to shed off. And I was like, okay, now I really don't know what's going on because I'm eating like a man. Like, I mean, I am eating so much food. And that was another thing. I was like, wow, my appetite has increased drastically. I mean, all of a sudden, I can go to my favorite Mexican restaurant and not just have 2 tacos. Now I eat 2 baskets of chips by myself, 3 tacos, rice, beans, and my friends' leftovers, and still be hungry after. And then sometimes I would even, after those huge, like where I would eat so much, I would go home just out of curiosity and weigh myself. And usually 9 out of 10 times I'd lost a few pounds. And I was like, this is absolutely not normal. My normal healthy weight, I'm about 15, 20 pounds heavier. This is odd. But I chose to ignore it because I was like, oh, I'm the type of person. I'm like, oh, I'm fine. Like, it's nothing. No big deal. It's all good. Well, then I started getting less and less energetic, and I started falling asleep in class, really, like every class. I mean, I got in there, and it was as soon as the teacher started talking, I mean, I would try so hard to hold my eyes open and take notes, but I would just pass out on my desk every time. And then teachers actually started coming up to me and saying like, hey, are you okay? Like, you seem very, very tired and down and out of it and like just blah. And I remember I had become, my body was in so much, like going through so much that I didn't even realize how I was acting. But I had friends and teachers come up and tell me, you seem really like depressed, or you don't seem okay, like at all. And since I was feeling so, like that just made me more mad. I was like, no, I'm fine. I'm good. Like, I'm just tired. I just need sleep. That's it. And then at this point, trying to think, I'm going to start probably around, I was diagnosed in February. So now, basically, the symptoms just kept getting worse and worse until February happened. And then it got really, really bad. It was pretty much like as soon as I came home from school, I would eat everything in my pantry and then just pass out. I wouldn't do my homework because I couldn't. I was so tired. I started failing tests. I started getting zeros on assignments, and things were just really going downhill. And then I vividly remember one day after track practice, I had to stay on the field. After my workout, I stayed and laid on the field for probably an hour because I physically could not get up because I was so tired. And I had coaches come up to me and I was like, oh, I'm good. I just worked out too hard. But the reality was it wasn't even that hard of a workout. I was just so lethargic. And then, I was diagnosed February 7th. So I'll jump to that day. I had my mom take me to school for an early morning track practice. And normally, at this point, I hadn't told her anything about what I'd been feeling.
None of us. The only thing I remember, Abby, just to break in for a minute, was with the whole eating thing.
Yeah.
Literally, it was the weekend before you were diagnosed. You came home, and I guess you and Jasmine had gone to Chewy's, and you said, I don't know what's going on. I just ate everything on my plate, and I was still hungry when I was through. And I just weighed, and I actually weigh less. It is the weirdest thing. And I remember, I remember, and this is the thing too for the parents listening out there, whenever you're dealing with this, or for parents that of type 1s, a lot of the symptoms of type 1 diabetes are just being a teenager because you eat more, you burn more energy, you are tired, you're going a lot, and so you really don't know until that last minute. And so I remember that's all that I had no idea you were feeling like this. I was completely oblivious. So go ahead.
I know. And I never really, no, it's okay. I never really shared it with you or mom because I felt like I was in such denial that there was something physically wrong with me that I just figured, why burden them with this? Like, I'm just being, a teenager and being pissed off about school, and I just don't want to go to track practice, and I'm tired. But clearly there was something very wrong. But yeah, so on the way to school that next morning on the way to track practice, my mom, I think maybe she had said something like maybe about me seeming down or something. And somehow it got brought up that I'd been having these, I forgot to mention this, I had weird heart palpitations. I was like, yeah, like I'm usually like when I do any kind of working out or even just walking from point A to point B, I get these weird heart palpitations and I get so out of breath. And then my mom, she's a huge worrier. She was like, oh God, you're not going to school. We're going to the doctor. Like, you have to go. And I was like, Mom, no, I need to go to school. It's fine. I promise. They're going to tell me I'm dehydrated because I've never drank enough water. And that's another thing. Sorry, I'm like backtracking, thinking of symptoms as I go. But I was drinking probably like a gallon of water each day because I was so thirsty. My body was so dehydrated. So anyway, when I told her that, she was like, nope, you're not going to school. You're going to the doctor. And so I went. I was like, fine, whatever, kind of rolling my eyes like, oh, they're going to tell me I'm dehydrated. I'm fine. Well, obviously, that's not what happened. While I was there, they tested my blood, and it takes a couple hours for the results to come in. So I went home, and then I get a call from my mom saying, hey, Abby, don't freak out, but we have to talk about something. I was like, okay. She's like, well, I'm coming home from work right now to take you back to the hospital. This time we're going to the ER because your blood sugar is so high that you could actually go into a coma at any moment. You probably have type 1 diabetes. And I remember just being like so shocked. I couldn't even believe what she was saying. I was like, there's no way I have diabetes. I, like most people think, like, I was like, I don't eat a lot of sugar. I'm not overweight. Like, there's no way I have diabetes, Right. But because I didn't know the first thing about it. And then come to find out it's an autoimmune disorder, and type 1 is very different from type 2. And yeah, so then she took me to the ER, and from there, they like took care of me, and then they said, okay, an ambulance is going to come pick you up in however long. And then it was maybe 15 minutes later, they said, oh, okay, actually, we have to call the helicopter. This is urgent. Like, we can't wait on the ambulance. So they life-flighted me to Children's in Dallas, and I stayed there for like 2.5 days, where they taught me everything that I ever wanted to know about IVs, and they trained me how to take care of myself and all that good stuff. And yeah, I mean, it was pretty crazy. I will say this, I tried to stay very calm, cool, and collected the whole time. He wasn't so calm, cool, and collected.
No, I was not.
He was so worried. He was great, but he was very, very worried, and I could tell. And I was trying not to make it any worse by showing how shocked I was.
Well, okay, and here's where I want to push pause for a minute. And I'm sorry, we're having some audio problems on my end. Abby, are you hearing me pretty clearly?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, but there's a little bit of static. So just for the listener, sorry about that whenever we play this, because we're doing this through Skype. Okay. One of the things that I talk about a lot, and this gets to kind of the essence of why I'm taking the liberty of having you, my daughter, on here and completely monopolizing the subject matter as opposed to just going out and getting a regular guest like I normally would, is the way you handled that time in the hospital. Because I'll never forget something you said to me that was the title of the blog post that I put out that I actually shared with you, which was you first of all, to the listener, Abby gets she's brought to Children's, she's life flighted to Children's, she's checked in, and for 48 hours you didn't get to eat a meal, you're getting your finger pricked, you're getting your blood tested around the clock, so you're sleep deprived, your life has changed, and baby, you never complained one time. And there was that one time whenever you said to me, and as a dad, I'm sitting here going, what in the world is going through her mind right now? Her life has changed forever. There's no way she can completely get her brain wrapped around this, but what is she thinking? And you called me over to your hospital bed and you said, I thought about it and I could be mad, but that wouldn't do any good. That wouldn't change anything. So I just have to accept this. So talk to me and talk to the listeners, because, and to the listener, I don't care if it's in a business that you're struggling with. I don't care if you've gone broke. I don't care if you've all of a sudden, maybe you've had a horrible diagnosis yourself. I got to witness my daughter deal with something so courageously that it taught me a lesson, because what she said is right. I handled it horribly. I was terrible. I was a wreck. But yet you handled it with grace and courage. What was your mindset, and what do you think it was that was able to make you process it, accept it, and then kind of go, okay, this is the new life that I will be living. This is how things will be different, and keep your calm. And then I'm sure there have been some times that I probably don't even know about where it hasn't been the case, So kind of take us through that.
But yeah, so basically, I vividly remember this one moment that it was when I realized, wow, this is real. Is after 48 hours of like fasting, because they didn't let me eat anything. It was mealtime, and they delivered my meal or whatever, and then the nurses came in to give me my shots. And in my brain, I'm thinking, oh, I'm in the hospital. Of course, I have to take shots. I mean, everybody's always having to take shots at the hospital. Like the nurses come by and they like change out your IV, like all that good stuff. And so that was that. And then the next meal came, and then the nurses came back the exact same shots to give me. And then this time they were like, okay, now why don't you try to give this to yourself? And I was like, what do you mean? You're the nurse. Why am I giving myself this shot? And they told me, no, like this is diabetes. You have to take shots every single time you put food in your mouth, unless there's no carbs in it. And I was like, and it was that moment that I was like, oh, wow. I'm going to go home from the hospital in a couple of days, and I'm going to have to do this by myself. And this isn't just something that I'm going to heal from. This is going to most likely be something I deal with for the rest of my life, unless I find a cure, of course. But if not, I mean, this is my reality 24/7. So it was that moment I hit it, but I was very like shocked. I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know how I'm ever going to be able to do this and take care of myself well with this kind of like, I don't know, like it just seemed very complicated. I was like, I don't like giving myself shots. No one likes doing that. I don't like needles. I don't want to have to do this every time I go out to eat. But yeah, it was that moment though that I realized, you know what? Okay, now that I get it, this is bad. This is gonna suck.
Yeah.
But there's absolutely nothing I can do to change it, and there's nothing that I can do to make this better. All I can do is accept it and make the most of it. And so, I mean, that sounds cliche, but I basically was like, you know what? If I'm going to have diabetes, I want to be the best diabetic ever. I want to take care of myself. I've always been very like disciplined. So I was like, I want to check my blood sugar as many times as I need to make sure I have good blood sugar. So I'm healthy all the time. And that's pretty much what I went into with like that. When I went in with that mindset, diabetes didn't have to be this horrible thing. It could be something that I really turn around and make better. And all that to say, I am not the best diabetic out there at all. I've definitely had my days where I've completely screwed up and it's been my fault. So yeah, I mean, I can get into that too, but
Well,
yeah, so.
you know, one of the things too, Abby, and I'm sitting here, I'm looking at our Peloton, and everybody that listens to the Texas Titans podcast, they know that, you know, your dad is always on his Peloton, and I think that I've mentioned it
Always.
I've mentioned it in nearly every episode. But, you know, to the listener out there, that's one of the things too that Abby refused to do, was to stop being physically active. And in fact, you know, she and I actually went to New York and rode together in the studio with our favorite instructor, Matt Wilpers. And you know, you
Yes.
crushed the Peloton. You know, and I can't believe in that incredible facility that y'all got there at Boulder that you don't have Pelotons there. But still, you know.
Right.
And so I, you know, tell the listeners and anyone who might actually, if they may have a child that has diabetes that's listening to this, you know, or they're, you know, or whatever, you know. How has it impacted you and your ability to be physically active? How have you made changes, and how much different is it now whenever you go to, like whenever you were in track and now you've been diagnosed? There's a little bit more planning involved. What does that look like?
Yes. Yeah. So with diabetes, I mean, there's planning with everything. I mean, that's the main change for anybody who's just diagnosed, especially working out. But in all aspects, there's just planning, a little bit more planning has to go into it. But yeah, well, what's funny is, speaking of that, the 90-minute Matt Wilpers ride we did in New York, I actually had to bring sugar with me, obviously, I guess it's not obvious. I'll tell that story in a second, but I'll just kind of go into what you need to do before you work out. So before I was diagnosed, I could have a quick snack if I needed it, and then go into the gym and run a mile if I wanted to. But now it is crucial that I bring some type of sugar or simple carb with me in case my blood sugar dips low. And it is extremely important to check your blood sugar throughout your workout, before and after, because say my blood sugar is 75, it would be dumb for me to go to the gym and just start running on the treadmill, because that's like on the lower side of things. So my blood sugar is very likely to just dip and I could bottom out. And that's really, really dangerous. Yeah. So now before I go to the gym, I make sure that my blood sugar is somewhere around between like 120 and 180, I'd say, or maybe just below 200 is fine usually if you're about to go do like a rigorous workout. And I also make sure I have snacks on me 100% of the time. I mean, I say 100% of the time. Like I said, I'm not perfect. There's definitely been times where I forget, but it really is important to have a snack with you as you work out, just in case you are to dip low. And another, on the opposite side of things, if your blood sugar gets very, very high, it's also dangerous to work out, because then you run the risk of having ketones, which basically is when your body goes into fight or flight mode because its blood sugar is so high, and it starts releasing these toxic like chemicals or whatever, or they're called, forget what they're called, antibodies or something. And it's toxic for your blood. And that's really, really dangerous too. So before working out now, it's really important for me to like basically just monitor my blood sugar, constantly check it, and make sure I have enough food in my system to hold me over. And I was going to say, when we went to New York and did the Peloton class, I actually had to stop at one point to have a little sugar packet. And I remember being like, man, like a year ago, I would have been really embarrassed by this, but now it's just become such a normal thing. So, yeah.
And I think that's encouraging for, you know, anyone out there, parents of children that may have had it. Babe, I think you've done well with that, in that, you know, you're bold about it. You know, you don't let it stop. And you don't let it identify you, which I think is really cool. It's just, it's something you deal with,
Absolutely.
but you still are who you are. And I think that definitely comes through.
Mhm.
So, all right. So
Yeah.
one of the things that I would like for you to do is, and if I tell the story wrong, babe, just correct me. But from what I understand, you and
Okay.
again, as a parent of someone like Abby who keeps a lot of this internally, because she worries about me worrying about her probably more than I worry about her, and so
Yes,
what I found
definitely.
out later is that you'd been on these message boards with other type 1 diabetic, these online communities and stuff, and doing the research. And, I take for granted that, look at how I am. I'm in like seemingly perfect health, and yet I'm constantly obsessed with worrying about, diet, exercise, and how I can be healthier. And now you have to do it to maintain a certain level of peak performance and survival, sweetheart. And so you had been on a message board, and I
Mhm.
guess, what was it, a mom or something that came on and asked if anyone knew of a poem about type 1 diabetes. Is that
Mhm.
right? And you decided that you didn't know of a poem or hadn't seen one, so you just took it upon yourself to
Mhm.
write one. Is that correct? Did I tell it right?
Yes.
Okay. All
Yes,
right.
that's pretty much what happened. So yeah, I joined this app called Beyond Type 1, which is a great app. I recommend it to any type 1 diabetics because it's really important to just have like some sort of outlet and some sort of community when you feel really isolated, because I don't know very many type 1 diabetics. So that app for me was like a really good resource for me to just talk and vent and, talk about all the problems with type 1 and share different tips and tricks and stuff. So I was scrolling through one day, and I think it might have been a mom. It might have been just like a random guy around my age. I think they said something about how they were going to like a open mic poetry thing or something.
Okay.
And or it wasn't open mic. It was something like where they were supposed to like have a poem and say it in front of a crowd or something at school, something like that. And I was like, oh, that's cool. I've always loved writing poetry. It's always been something that I've found really fun. So I was like, you know what? I don't know a poem, but like you said, I was like, I can just whip one up real quick and post it and see what happens. And I'll reach out to him. And he actually said that he would end up using it. And but I got a lot of really good feedback from a lot of different diabetics. I did not realize, I mean, it's a dramatic poem, but I didn't realize that like people would like it as much as they did. Oh, sorry, I'm getting a little bit sick if you hear my rasp in my voice. But yeah, so I can read the poem if you want.
Yeah,
If
I'd
you want
love
me
for you
to.
to
I have
read
it
it.
pulled up on my phone.
And folks, I will try to keep it together, because here's the thing. When you have someone like Abby, again, this is why I say that she is, we'll call her a tomorrow's Titan, because she is, this is why she is, I mean, she lives her life as though nothing's wrong. And as her parent, even though I know she deals with things, she makes it all look very easy. And then when she read this poem to me for the first time, it gave me more of an insight of the things that she doesn't tell me, that she thinks and experiences. And anyway, I won't belabor the point. So I'll just go ahead and read it, Abby.
Okay. Okay. So, yeah, I wrote this probably like, let's see, I wrote this August 27th of 2018. I said, I'm tired, I'm hot, my mouth is dry, I think my blood sugar might be high. I'm shaky, I'm weak, and everything is slow. I think my blood sugar might be low. Although this disease cannot be beat, I manage by bolusing before I eat. Pizza is a dish that I will always like, but is it really worth the blood sugar spike? Some days I feel confident, mighty, and strong, but some days I feel like I'm doing everything wrong. Whether it's managed by pump or pins, diabetes always wins. Diabetes causes strife, one wrong move, and it takes my life. But I will keep fighting with this disease, even though it won't come with ease. No, I am not, in fact, like the rest, but that doesn't mean I can't feel my best. Although I've been robbed of insulin, I'm an equal citizen. Although my pancreas is dead to me, I'm still alive, I still am free. I will rise, for I am a leader. My identity is not read on a glucose meter. That's it.
Wow, that's awesome, baby. I'm so proud.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I'm going to share this with the folks at JDRF, and I think that
Oh,
when they read that, they just sort of hear about it, they'll just it encapsulates how you have dealt with this. I mean, and on the
oh,
outside, I see you winning the battle in the way you march forward, in the way that you handle it. but then to hear some of the things that you have to internalize, I mean, that's pretty hard for a dad, but I'm so proud of you for having
Mhm.
that attitude about it.
Yeah, well, yeah, well, thank you for bringing that up, and I'm really happy that you had me share that because it's definitely not something that I just would go read to my friends.
Right.
So I think if anybody listening to this can relate or has diabetes or knows someone with it, I think that they'll kind of it really encompasses like a kind of my feelings because, like I said, I use that app as like a resource to just vent to and
Right.
just to have like an outlet. And so it's very vulnerable and raw, basically.
Right. Right.
So I'm really excited that you had me share that.
Well, let's just talk about some practical tips and tricks. I mean, it's one of the things that I always like to tease out of my guests
Mm-hmm.
is to figure out, okay, they're successful. You are successfully dealing with type 1 diabetes. And I expect now, I'm going to tell you, diabetes or not, I expect you to be a great success in business one day as well. But until then, you do, you have exhibited success. What is your strategy? Like, for example, we've talked about earlier, you wanted to go to the University of Colorado Boulder when your stupid dad suggested that it would be a school you should look at, and now I'm paying the price both
Yep.
figuratively and literally with you going way off, um, and so. But that took some
Yep.
doing. You set out a plan. What is your strategy for success, babe? How do you prioritize, and whenever you set your mind on a goal, set out to plan and execute so that you will be victorious? What is your strategy?
I'd say a big thing for me, this is just very specific, but something that I've been really avid about since I got here was getting in at least 10,000 steps per day.
Oh, cool.
So I downloaded this app, which you can use the iPhone health app, but it's called Steps app.
Yeah.
And it's very, very accurate. And I've become really avid about that because I've noticed the more I mean, obviously with any exercise, your blood sugar is you're gonna be more sensitive to insulin, so your body's more receptive to the insulin that it's receiving, which is a good thing. So by just getting in, even if I don't have the chance to go to the gym, if I get my 10,000 steps in a day, I found that my blood sugar is usually a lot better on those days. And then on days when I'm lazy and I just want to sit in my dorm and watch Netflix, I tend to run a little bit higher. So I really tried to prioritize getting in 10,000 steps. That's,
right.
I mean, there's more, but that's like a big one that doesn't seem like a big deal, but it really is.
So it's goal setting, would you say? I mean,
Yes.
so talk about that even outside
Yes.
of health and fitness, just like prioritizing, like when you wanted to get into Boulder, like what was your
Okay.
plan? What was your plan that you set out? Because and to the listener, I mean, I have done my best to impart, what tips and tricks that I use, and
Mm-hmm.
and bless their hearts. Rylan and Abby they've listened to me preach, their whole lives about different things, and so what was it like whenever you set the goal to get into the University of Colorado?
Mm-hmm.
What do you think you can accredit the success of actually getting that job done and getting into your number one school that you wanted? How did you do it?
I would say, okay, well, this is something that I learned. This is not something that I did well, but I would suggest to anybody who is looking to get into their dream school, start as early as possible. Start freshman year, start really researching what schools you want, what it takes to get in, because it will save you so much stress in the future. Because unlike most people, I didn't know where I wanted to go until I'd say my dad brought up Boulder probably my junior year.
Yeah.
And that's when I started realizing, wow, like I actually, because before that I had thought about going to somewhere in Texas or just somewhere in the South, because like a lot of my friends, that's what a lot of them did. But there was something in me that I was like, I don't know for sure if that's what I want to do. But once, my dad talked about Boulder, I was like, oh my gosh, that sounds like the perfect fit for me. But it was my junior year and I'd already taken the ACT, and I mean, that's pretty late in the game, I'd say. And it was like the end of my junior year too. So once it was my senior year, I decided, okay, my first semester of my senior year, here again with the goal setting, I'm going to make all A's. And I did. I made all A's. I studied like nobody's business. I've always been like on top of my stuff, and I've always been a good student, but I've never been like this perfect straight A, always studying type person. But I decided, okay, Boulder is where I want to go. I'm jumping in late, so I'm going to do everything I can in my power to try to make this happen. And so I worked really, really hard on my grades. I studied for the ACT. I decided I was going to retake it. And so I studied an hour every day for the ACT until whatever the next date was. And I improved my score like a point, because, I'm just a terrible test taker, but that's aside the point. I improved my grades a lot, and I worked really, really, really hard on my college essays. I don't know if I don't know who reads the college essays. I'm not really sure how that process works. I don't know how much weight it carried, but I had such great feedback from my college advisors and stuff telling them this paper is really, really good. And you obviously poured everything into this application. And yeah, so I don't know why I got in, but I accredit it to that, basically just pouring everything into it and into my applications.
Well, but I'd say, because what I watched, you set the goal, and then and what you're telling you planned. You mean it was
Yes.
you did some serious planning, and then there is no substitute for just hard work. And I watched that whenever you determined that that's where you wanted to go, and you did just kind of put your head down and made it happen. And so, and then now also something that I would like to bring up to the audience is that you are an amateur chef.
Oh,
And
yes.
so is that something that is going to be in the future? I mean, right here in front of everybody, let's have a daddy-daughter discussion. What are you going to do with all this money that we're spending to send you to the University of Colorado?
Oh gosh.
What is the plan after? I know you want to own your own business. Are you still thinking culinary, or what do you want to do, babe?
I'm honestly, yes, culinary is still 100% on the radar. What's funny is I wish I had it with me, but yesterday I was just journaling, and I actually wrote down a list of dream jobs. I think came up with a list of 10 different dream jobs, no matter how crazy they were, how weird some of them were. And I'll try to remember some of them, but that was a pretty cool thing. And I figured out a few of them. I think I might want to own my own catering business. I'm not 100% sure, but that's something that definitely interests me. This isn't as much business, but I would love to do something with nutrition. So maybe be like a nutritionist.
Yep.
One of the ones I also came up with, I love yoga. And I was like, that would be really cool to be a yoga instructor, but then one day own my own yoga studio.
Right.
That would be really cool. That's something I've probably never shared with you before, Dad. I don't know.
I didn't know that one.
But it just kind of came to me when I was just kind of journaling yesterday. I would love to honestly, anything along those lines. I want to be my own boss. So I know I definitely do want to own my own business, but I'll probably incorporate either culinary or nutrition somehow. So we'll see. I'm just kind of.
Well, okay. Now I got to tell you. So one of the things on my next blog, I think it's either my next one that I'm going to put out or the one after, I'm recommending James Altucher's book, Choose Yourself, which talks about in the new economy, working for yourself. And I'm going to get it to you. I want you to read it. I think you'd really like it, babe. But one of the things that you just said, that's a strategy that you do. I don't think you realize some of the things that you do that are really quite profound. In that book, Choose Yourself, James Altucher talks about how you should make your brain sweat every day. Yes. And the way he does it is he has an ideas journal where he just writes down ideas. And like you said about your dream jobs, nothing's too stupid, nothing's too crazy. You just get it out. That's exactly what he said about the ideas. Nothing's too crazy, nothing's too wild. Just make yourself think and constantly be in a mode of generating ideas. So I'm glad to hear that you're doing that. That's really, really smart. And then another thing that you've always done.
Is great.
Well, and another thing that you've always done that's really smart too, that most of the people, like the Tim Ferriss podcasts that I've listened to for years now, and that it was a muse for this podcast as well as my book. Tim journals, Ryan Holiday journals. I mean, all the guys that I read and kind of look up to as thought leaders, journaling is such a profound part of their daily practices. And I know you've done that for years. So it's kind of weird to see that. And it's good to see, obviously, that you're doing a lot of these, you're creating a lot of these habits that you probably don't even realize are part of why you've been successful thus far, and why I think you're going to continue to see success in the future. So I'm really proud of you for adopting those habits. That's awesome.
Yeah, no, definitely. I would recommend, like you said, journaling to anyone. It's amazing. I mean, yesterday, when the reason I wrote down that list is because I had a class that morning, and we talked about, it was like the professor said something about what's your dream job? Like, what do you want to do? Tell your neighbor. And I remember being like, I have a lot of ideas, but I don't really know.
Yep.
I can't say with confidence, like, I can't really list out like a specific job that I would really, really, really want. And so I went home and I was like, you know what, I'm going to just, doesn't matter how crazy, I don't have to share this with anybody. Nobody has to see it. I'm going to write down what are my dream jobs. And after I've even today, like, I feel like my life just feels a little bit more in order. Like
Yeah.
I feel more like, okay, I have a few goals that I can actually start striving for now that I'm in college, and I'm not just here to get a random degree. I'm here to work towards something. So it's really cool.
Right. Well, good deal. Well, all right. Well, sweetheart, thank you for taking time out of your busy college schedule to
Of course,
talk to
I'm
your
so
old
happy
man.
I got to do this. This is awesome.
Well, I'm grateful, and also for the listeners. You know, Abby was the first one who I ever told that I was going to pursue speaking in the podcast, and Abby's always been my I always call her my confidant, my comedic partner. You know, we get each other's sense of humor better than anybody, and
That's very true.
and bless her heart, she's been my guidance counselor at times. You know, but, so
and he's done the same for me, so it's all good.
Well, I'm so proud of you, and I'm so proud of how you've handled not just your type 1 diabetes, but just everything. No father could be more blessed, and I love you.
I love you too. Sorry, wait, it cut out for a second. That's why I got quiet.
Oh, I didn't choke you up or anything?
Do what?
I didn't choke you up or anything?
No, well, no. It just,
we didn't. That
it
wasn't
just got dead silent.
That wasn't a dramatic pause.
It was not. Unfortunately, hey, if you want it to be, sure, it was a dramatic pause.
Yeah. All right, babe. Well, all right. Well, I love you. Thank you for doing this podcast.
I love you too.
And I'll see you here. I guess next week for Thanksgiving.
Yep.
Boom.
I'll be home.
All right.
22nd.
Can't wait to have you cook for us. All right. Love you, baby.
Awesome. Yeah. Very excited.
All right, bye.
Love you. Bye.
Hey, folks, I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Texas Titans podcast. Before you go, I wanted to let you know where you can find us out there on the interwebs. You can go to show notes as well as listen to all the past episodes and look for upcoming shows at textitans.blog. Also, that has all the different formats that you can listen to the show on if you go there. So textitans.blog. You can also go to jasonwrightnow.com. That has not only a link to the podcast, but it also has a link to my Make Your Own Rules blog that I think you'll enjoy, so please check that out. Also, it has information about my executive coaching business, speaking, and anything else like that, so jasonwrightnow.com. That's literally just my name, jasonwrightnow.com. On Twitter, I'm at jasonwrightTX. I would really appreciate a follow. I have not been a big Twitter user, so I need you guys to help me with that. So please take the time to go out to jasonwrightTX, find me, and follow me. I'm trying to get more active with it, and so if you'll engage with me, I'll try to do a better job of engaging with you. So I would appreciate that. And then on Instagram, I'd really appreciate a follow there. I'm at Jason Wright Now. Again, my name, Now. So please follow me on Instagram. And then on Facebook, I'm also at Jason Wright TX. So check us out there. And I'm also on LinkedIn, so look for me there. I try to use as many platforms as possible to let you know about upcoming shows, past shows, and then also just anything that I find interesting. I'm trying to push it out and get better with the social media. So please check us out there and follow us. I would be most grateful. And also, please do not forget, it means the world to me for you to go to iTunes, give us a rating. Right now, we've got that 5-star rating. I'm hoping to hold that. Please, please, please. The comments that people are writing are so very kind. Thank you so much. It means the world to me. And that's how we keep moving up in the ranks. And right now, we're crushing it with downloads. The show has really had incredible feedback thanks to you guys. So I'm grateful. Please keep that momentum going by giving us a review on iTunes. Thanks so much and have a great day. And as always, I could not be more grateful for you listening. Thanks.